We treat cancer as if it's the enemy. Attack it with everything we got. Everybody, no matter what your age is, can be an athlete. It's hard to do the things we want to do when we're not healthy. To be successful, be a good father, be a good parent, I think health is instrumental. I felt like I was dying inside.
You can have nothing and be happy and be fulfilled. But if you lose your health, it's pretty much the only scenario where you can't be happy.
Adding in not 100 ingredients that have no value, but 3 or 4 ingredients, like 3 adaptogens, for example, that actually...
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Nathan Crane, who is a highly sought after speaker, author, and teacher. He is a certified health and nutrition coach, an inspirational speaker, a natural health researcher. He is a 20 times award-winning filmmaker and best-selling author, and he's the founder of Plant Powered Athlete. Nathan and I had a beautiful conversation about his story of kind of how he was introduced to the world of plant-based eating, from him experiencing both spectrums of life, from experiencing sickness in basically sleeping in his car, drugs, alcohol, to the opposite side of having his health, of being fit, of living his best life. We talked about Plant Powered Athlete, his supplement line. We talked about his journey to training into CrossFit, to trying to be an elite CrossFit athlete. We spent a large time of our conversation talking about cancer and all the aspects that are included when we look at preventing the risk of cancer in someone's life, and how to reverse cancer, basically reduce the risk of cancer and of dealing with cancer through multiple lifestyle changes. And we dove deep into each of those lifestyle changes. That happens towards the end of our conversation, so I highly recommend that you check it out all the way through. There's also some beautiful gifts that are linked down below for you guys that we're going to mention throughout the podcast. So enjoy this episode, and have a great time. All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. All right, brother, welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you on. How you doing today?
Maxime, hey man, thanks for having me, dude. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on your show. That was my on your show a few weeks ago. That was kind of our first time kind of connecting together, and I think we've just been vibing since then.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you guys are doing and what you're up to, making it easy for people to have a healthy, lean version of themselves, doing a whole food, plant-based approach. So love what you're up to, man, and excited to dive into whatever we want to today in terms of helping your audience be healthier, more fit, stronger, whatever you want to talk about. Yeah.
So, you're the founder of Plant Powered Athlete. So just for people to know, like, we're going to dive into that later on. But you have a very interesting story that kind of brought you to this place where you get to serve and help people with their health. And so if you don't mind me asking, like, what is the thing that drives you to do all the work that you do?
I think the deepest thing that probably drives me is, I've been sick. I know what it's like to be unhealthy. I've been lost in life. I've gone through hardcore addictions. I've gone through many traumas in life. I mean, I know what that end of suffering is. I know what feeling hopeless in life is, and helpless and homeless, and sick, literally physically sick, feeling like I'm dying. Like, I know what all that feels like, and I know so many millions of people go through that every day, whether it's depression, anxiety, self-doubt, self-worry. It's struggling with different kinds of addictions. It'd be cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, pharmaceuticals, processed sugar, you name it, food, right? And I know how bad all that sucks. And I also know what the other end of that is like. I know what it's like to live a meaningful life, to be healthy and more vital and vibrant now than I've ever been in my entire life. I know what it's like to, contribute and be fulfilled in life and have a beautiful, healthy family and be doing work that I love and have a, be grateful to have a nice home to live in. And, so it's like, I know both ends of that spectrum. And along the way, what I've realized is that the only true fulfillment in life is service to others.
Yeah.
Service to others and a deep connection to God, to spirit, to source, to a higher power. And to me, that's the only true fulfillment, right? There's no true happiness in chasing wealth for the sake of wealth. There's no true happiness in chasing success and fame for the sake of fame. There's no true happiness in chasing power or control. It's fleeting. You'll never be happy ever. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach this to my 8-year-old son. We buy him a Lego set, and it's like he's happy for the day that he builds it. He's happy
Yeah.
for 4.5 days after he builds it. And on day 5, he wants the next one. And then he's
Yeah.
upset and he's sad and he's not happy. And I just sit with him and I explain, look, it's because toys and Legos and things like this will never truly make you happy. That's not where true happiness is. Happiness is not in material things. Happiness is not in how we look. And that's the reality, right? We may feel bad about ourselves because how we look, but we'll never be truly happy even when we get those 6-pack abs. Like the 6-pack abs might be a goal that we accomplish. We feel good about ourselves, but you'll never be fulfilled from that, right? Like that will be a very short-term happiness that you'll experience. We have to find, you can have those 6-pack abs and be happy. You can be wealthy and be happy. You can, have lots of great material things and be happy. But you can also truly be happy, homeless, with nothing. It's hard to be happy when you're really sick, but you can definitely be happy with nothing. Because I've been there. That's kind of what I felt I had to go through was, having a lot of money very young, kind of being successful at 18, 19 years old, to basically having nothing, living on the streets again, homeless at like 19, 20 years old, and going deep into a spiritual path and learning, how do I be happy with nothing? And through meditation and reflection and spiritual practice, I actually did find contentment and peace and happiness, literally not knowing where my next meal was going to come from. And so I think we're chasing happiness in all the wrong ways. And, I think everybody here wants to be happy. Nobody wants to suffer. And everybody wants to be happy. And at some level, I think all of us want to be healthy. It's hard to do the things we want to do when we're not healthy. It's hard to have energy when we're not healthy, right? It's hard to be successful, be a good father, be a good parent when we're not healthy. We don't have the energy. We feel sick. So I think health is instrumental. And, that's what I like about what you help people look good, but you help them feel good with good, healthy food, right? There's a lot of people that go chasing after looks, but they'll do it through any means possible. Junk food, crash dieting, excessive calorie deficits, things that are going to actually probably make them worse and sicker in the long term, So anyway, I went through a lot of that early in my life. I mean, 9 years old, I was, smoking cigarettes, 12 years old, addicted to alcohol, 15, 16, hard drugs, homeless at 15, in jail, house arrest, nearly dead at 17, 18. So started really young, went through a lot of crazy experiences, barely made it to 18 and then really dove deep into changing my life and dove deep into health and spirituality and transforming my life. And so now it's really my life mission and purpose is to help others overcome those challenges and to find hope and possibility and to discover how to be healthy and how to find deeper purpose and meaning in your life. So ultimately you can be happy.
Dude, there's so much to unpack here that I want to dive into. Okay, so let me start with that. As you were sharing, having a 6-pack in it's not going to solve all your problem. It's not going to represent everything. It is true. It makes me think of the Jim Carrey quote. I wish everyone can be rich and successful to just realize that there is nothing to it. Right? I wish everyone could have a 6-pack just to realize that it feels nice for a bit, but eventually you're like hungry and you want to go out with friends and you want to be able to kind of enjoy something that has a little bit of, sodium or whatever. And you're like, oh, I can't because I'm going to lose my 6-pack if I do that. So you kind of lose that quality of life.
Yeah. You want to be happy, but then you're unhappy being happy, right?
Yeah. Hey, it happens all the time. So, because as you were sharing this, it made me think of a moment in my life where I realized that the pursuit of money, the pursuit of status, the pursuit of the material things, like really shifted for me. And I can share it. I have it behind me. There's one thing that I bought that like made me realize all of those things. And so I'm curious for you, like, when was that moment of like, oh, shit, if I, continue pursuing this thing, it's like maybe you've achieved a certain milestone and you got there and you're like, wow, I still feel empty. This sucks.
Yeah, the first time that happened, and I would say the most significant eye-opening experience for me. So, 18, moved to San Diego, started my life over, started from scratch, had to take the bus every day to work, didn't have a car, didn't have money, wore the same suit, the clothes. It was a white, all white suit. Basically, it was pants and a long sleeve shirt and a white tie. And my manager and the top salesman there were betting against me, betting like $100, $200 right in front of me how long I was going to make it. They're like, I bet he makes it a week. The other one's like, nah, I'll bet you 200 he makes it less than 2 weeks or whatever, right? Like right in front of me. And
Yeah.
sleeping in the bathroom and, washing my hair in the morning before they got there and that kind of stuff. Like that's kind of the grindy, place that I started. Commission only sales job. No, people
No
today,
base. Yeah.
yeah, no base, nothing. Like I had to, scratch and claw my way, and I did, and I learned, and I, became the top salesman, and then became the assistant manager, and then I became the manager, and then I became my manager's boss, district manager. In about a year and a half, I was promoted again to regional sales director. It was going to be like a 6-figure job. 19 years old, San Diego. I was
What were you
managing
selling?
cell phones, cell
Cell
phone
phones.
plans.
Okay.
Like we were a distributor for T-Mobile.
Okay. Nice.
So I had 3 locations, dozens of employees. I was hiring, firing, training. I still had to be the top salesperson too. Like it was hardcore, and I still didn't have a base. I still was only commission only. Plus, I think I got a percentage of what my 3 stores were doing. Still with no car. I lost my license. That's a whole other story. But 19
Yeah.
years old, still figuring all this out, and it was stressful though. And I was just chasing the success. I was chasing the money. I was chasing the whole thing, and all my money was spent on new. Now I had dozens of suits and thousands of
Yeah.
dollars worth of clothes. That's really where I was pretty much spending all my money. But I was staying up late. I was still getting into like partying, with the team, and I'd sleep 3, 4, 5 hours a night, and then I'd work 14, 15, 16 hours a day, party. And I did that 7 days a week, and then I was eating
Yeah.
terrible. I was eating breadsticks and Red Bulls and, giant coffees. And like, that was it. It was like pasta and breadsticks and cigarettes and Red Bulls for like a year and a half, 7 days a week. I mean, you can imagine. I was
That's
already
diversity
very
right there.
unhealthy. Yeah, I was already very unhealthy up to that point because of my childhood. But then, like, I stopped a lot of the hard stuff, but I still was not quite taking care of my health yet. And about a year and a half, I actually started to get sick, like a sickness that wouldn't go away. And it was a sickness beyond just like a flu or a cold or something like that. It was literally like I felt like I was dying inside, and I started feeling like hopeless. I started feeling depressed. And after about 2 weeks of that and some reflection, some deep reflection, I was just like, I have to quit. I can't do this anymore. This is
Like the
this
lifestyle or
is
the job?
both. I mean, mostly the job, which was combined with the lifestyle, right? My life
Yeah.
was my job. That
Yeah.
was it. That was all I did, 24/7, 7 days a week, and it was just destroying me. And so, actually, as they were promoting me, I went down and I denied the promotion and then quit. I actually told them I can't do this anymore. This is going to kill me. I'm sick and I can feel it. And I'm feeling depressed. And so anyway, I turned that down and realized like it wasn't, and then went through another whole experience, got into real estate and all of that. But through that next couple of years, really, I learned to meditate. I had a great spiritual teacher, Arturo Gaitan, come into my life and really start teaching me deep spiritual connection to myself, to a higher power, to finding deeper happiness in life. And that's really when I started realizing like, look, true happiness doesn't come from this. I had some success. I had the money. I had respect. I had multiple locations. I was younger than every employee I had. Right. And I mean, I was like, if you want to talk about power and control and money and respect and all the things that people chase every single day for happiness. And I was
Yeah.
not happy. Actually, I was dying inside. And
Yeah.
so, the next couple of years, I realized, wow, I can be, yeah, it's challenging not having money or knowing where my next meal is going to come from, but I'm actually way happier because I'm free. Like I'm
Yeah.
free and I'm discovering inside of myself where true happiness is. And that's not in all this other stuff. So that was a big awakening moment for me. I mean, there was a point where I was reading, I don't know if you ever read like Eckhart Tolle's books, The Power of Now and A New Earth.
Yeah.
I think it was 2008, 2009. I think I read those books in like a couple of days. I was just like, I was living on someone's couch at that point. And I remember I got into like such this blissful state of, I mean, that's all I can explain. It's just like I would just bliss. I'd just be walking down the street at like 10 o'clock at night in the middle of the rain, pouring rain on me, walking for miles like to the beach and sit in meditation. I'm just like blissed out. And, that was a big experience for me that was like, look, you can be so happy with nothing, literally
Yeah.
nothing. And I kind of like wanted to go do the yogi lifestyle in the Himalayan caves, or like go backpack in Europe or whatever. I was like, I don't even want to be a part of this world or any of this material, nothing, right? I just want to go meditate in caves for 20 hours a day. And
Yeah.
something inside of me was like, no, that's not for you. You have to stay here. You have to be a part of this world, a part of the material world, part of business. You have a bigger purpose here. And so like I had some strong resistance to that. I was like, no, but I want to go do this thing. But my
Yeah.
intuition was like, no, you need to stay here and do your work here. And so I listened and I did. And it wasn't easy, but things happened, and I started an advertising company with my mentor, and then that turned into another business, and then another business, and then I got into filmmaking, and like I just kept following whatever opportunity laid in front of me. And each thing that I've done since then has come from that place of not chasing money first. Actually, my company, we were talking offline a minute ago, you were mentioning about Panacea Community. That's the first company that I started on my own back in 2011, 2012, I think. And I started for free. It was just like, this is a passion. I need to do it. I'll figure out the business thing later. And ever since
Yeah.
then, that's the intention I've brought to things, is like, it's got to be something that really helps people. It's got to be transformational. It's got to be something that I'm passionate about. It's got to be something that can change people's lives. And then I can figure out the money and the business side of it. Yeah, we need money. Yeah, we live in this world. Yeah, we got to pay the bills. Yeah, and money's nice, and it's great to
Yeah.
have, material things that give us comfort. There's no doubt about that. But I think we've got it backwards, right? We're chasing the money first, and then people are in jobs that they're unhappy about, they hate, they're depressed, they're stressed, right? They're just doing things that they hate just to pay the bills. It's like, no, figure out the things you love that bring you joy, that are meaningful first, and then figure out how to pay the bills from that. That's
Yeah.
what I discovered was, boom, switching that around. And no matter how challenging it's been, it's always been a much more enjoyable life.
Yeah. That makes me think of the Steve Jobs. I can remember his exact quote, but it's basically like, you have to love what you do, because it's going to be so hard and challenging to stick to it, that if you don't like it, you're not going to stick to it. You'll just want to
That's
quit.
what I felt when I started CrossFit, and like got really serious about wanting to be an elite CrossFit athlete. And like, it was like that's where a lot of the elite CrossFit athletes said that I would listen to. Also, it's like, a lot of this is not fun. A lot of this
Yeah.
is so redundant and so hard, and you absolutely have to love it, or else you're not going to make it. And I mean, for 6.5 years, I was just totally obsessed with CrossFit and loved it. And, the whole other story now, but that was, those 5-hour training days, go to bed, sleep, not enough hours, 6, 7 hours,
Yeah.
wake up, feel terrible, feel awful, body hurts, didn't matter. Wake up, ice bath, get in the gym, start working out for 2.5 hours every morning, work all day, go to the gym 2.5 hours at night. Didn't matter how bad I felt, how sore I was, whatever. It was just like, yes, I loved it, but I also had a bigger vision and bigger goal.
Yeah.
And that's what you need for anything in life, right? If you're really going to be successful, it's like you've got to have a deep enjoyment and passion for what you do.
Yeah. And that level of mastery that's necessary to have that level of success takes like so many years to do it, that people
Right.
think of like, yeah, I'll do a year super hard. I was like, no, you need like 10 years. Like, you
Yeah,
want to be
exactly.
like, professional athlete, you got to train for a long time. You got to catch up with people that started when they were 10 years old, right? Especially if you're starting later in life. So,
Yeah.
um, Yeah, it made me laugh when you talked about like wanting to go and kind of like meditate in the Himalayan caves and all that, because I call that my hippie phase, where I sold everything and I hitchhiked across Canada and I was sleeping on couches and just,
Yeah.
I have a video. I bought fake money just so I could burn it and make a post on Instagram and be like, screw society and everything that it's for. And so I had that phase. I went for it. I was meditating in the caves on top of mountains, sleeping, on top of a mountain just because I hitchhiked there. So yeah, it's good that you were able to have that awareness to listen to yourself to not go down that path, because
Yeah.
it brought you to this beautiful place that you are now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did, and I did live like that for a few years, like kind of this, it was this kind of weird transition point where like I I didn't have a desire to make money and I couldn't sell anything. So I was in sales, like I was selling t-shirts for a nonprofit down in Barcadero on the seashore. And it's like, I barely made enough money each day just to pay my train ticket down there and back, you know?
Yeah.
So I just had this subconscious thing that was like, oh, sales are bad, money is bad, spiritual freedom is good. And so that subconscious belief manifested. And so there's a few years where like I kind of lived that way in San Diego. But, I think all of us at some point, just through deep reflection, certainly through meditation, can come to a more holistic viewpoint, right? That
Yeah.
even anybody who studies Paramahansa Yogananda, for example, or read his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, there's a lot of modern, wisdom keepers that say, look, keep a foot in both worlds, a foot in the material world and a foot in the spiritual world, right? Like in today's world, if you want to make a difference for the humanity, for the planet, for animals, like we need to do it here. We need to be a part of it. We're going out and living in a cave or being shut off from society or saying money's bad or whatever. Like that's not going to solve the problems we have. Money's not going away. I mean,
Yeah.
it might get changed to something else, who knows, but it's not going away. There was a point there where I was just like, yeah, money's going to go away. The whole system's going to crash. Everything's going to be replaced, with chaos and self-reliance. And I mean, I was thinking that since 2011, 2010, 2012, 2013. And
Yeah.
every year goes by and I'm like, nope, not happening. Nope, not happening.
Yeah.
Nope, not happening. 10, 12 years later, I'm like, actually, I don't think this is ever going to happen.
Yeah. And that's like,
um,
I have a wife and kids. I think I need to make some money now.
right? I got bills to pay. I got to be, my kids are going to school. They play sports, all this stuff. So I think the reality is keeping a foot in both worlds. Yes, spiritual path is important, right? Yes, I
Yeah.
believe we have a deeper purpose for being here beyond just the material world. Yes, I believe that when we really connect with our soul, our higher self, that we do connect to something that's deeply meaningful and transforms people around us in a really positive way. And I've seen it in my own life. And, being a part of this material world can be a blessing, right? Money's just energy. One of my teachers used to say, look, money just makes things bigger. That's it. If you're an
Yeah.
asshole, if you're a dick, if you're mean, like it just makes you a bigger asshole, like that's it. It
Yeah.
just makes things bigger. He used to say, he's like, yeah, if you're a woman and you have small breasts and you want bigger breasts, money just can make your breasts bigger,
Yeah.
he's like, but if you're a loving, generous person and you're caring and you do good for the world, you have more money, you're going to be more generous. You're going to help more people, right? You're going to be able to do it. But if you're not generous, this is what I learned. There were years in my company early on where I was like, I'm going to donate a percentage of profits every single month or every single year or whatever to nonprofits. But each month would go by because I had no profits. I could barely pay the bills, month after month after month,
Yeah.
year after year. It was like just paying the bills, barely every single month. So I never donated until I read a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind or Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset by
Small yellow book.
T. Harv Eker.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I've read it. Yeah.
Amazing book, incredible, highly recommend it. And it finally like pushed me over that edge to go, look, you just have to start. You have to, it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's 1 penny, if it's 50 cents, if it's $1, take a percentage every single month, put it into an investment jar, put it into a savings jar, put it into a play account, put it into a donation account, just do it. And so we started it, my wife and I, and we literally started with like a few dollars in each account, and then,
Yeah.
but we had the donation. I do it every single month, no matter what. And then it started to grow a little bit and grow a little bit and grow a little bit. And then it kept growing, growing, growing. I really feel like when you're managing money well, then God, the universe, gives you more money to manage well. Like more opportunities started to open for me, more, better paying situations, better, and this was even after a massive business failure and festival that changed 2,000 people's lives, but almost put me bankrupt, like put me into massive, like $500,000 in debt. And yet, here I am like, all right, I got to do something, and it's this guy says it works. So let me actually do it. And so ever since then, every single month, I donate a percentage of profits to nonprofits that are doing amazing work in the world. And that just grows and grows and grows and grows. So there are principles and there are ways to, actually implement. So the point being is that I was waiting until I had the thing, but I didn't realize you have to do the thing and then the thing happens. Don't wait until you have the money. Don't wait until you're healthy. Don't wait until you have time. You have to make time. You have to be healthy now. You have to start the accounts and donate now. Even if it's a penny, it's the habit, right? It's creating the habit. It's first thing in the morning, instead of going for the Pop-Tart or going for the cereal, it's like have a piece of fruit or drink some lemon water with a little salt in there. Like have a green juice or a smoothie first thing in the morning. Create the habit first, the healthy habit first, the healthy financial habit first. My practice now in the morning, first thing, I have a rule. I do not eat or drink anything until I do my meditation practice, period.
Yeah.
So it's like you create rules for yourself and then you follow them. And guess what? Your life gets better, period. It just gets better. And it's not overnight, but it definitely gets better.
Yeah. The whole money thing is true. Like that's why we've been donating to cancer patients every month from the business in over 4 years since we started. And
That's
at first
awesome.
I was like, I want to be able to donate, thousands of dollars every month. And then I was like, well, I don't have that much profit when we first started. So we couldn't do that. And then I read that book, but there's another one called The Profit First. I don't know who wrote that one, but it's the same principle. Is like when money comes in, you put a percentage towards operations, taxes, living, donations, fund, like a fun trip or whatever it may be. And then that allows you to kind of have the funds to do those donations every month. And that's been a game changer because, that's what feeds the soul every month, right? It's kind of like, yeah, we're helping people, but directly to a family that's struggling with cancer. Like that's just, it is fun. And it is like an allocation of energy that you're consciously choosing to have every month. So,
well, yeah, it's, where you, I think it's Tony Robbins who said this, is probably others where it's come from over the years. I don't know. I remember Tony Robbins saying it years ago that, where attention goes, where attention goes, energy flows, right? So it's like where we put our attention, where we put our focus, where we actually take action. Yes, thoughts and intentions are important, but you're not going to think yourself to wealth. You're not going to think yourself to health. You're not going to think yourself to overcoming addictions and problems. Yes, we have to think ourselves into, those positive things that we want, but then we also have to take the action. We have to create the habit. It's like I feel like it's, if we want to use a metaphor with God, for example, that God is like there, like saying, hey, here I am, come to me, like a parent, right? Like, come to me, like there's a little baby there trying to walk, come, like, here, stepping towards you, right? Stepping and saying, come. But that little baby has to at least take a few steps and then the parent's going to catch them. Like, that's where it is. Like, we can sit here and people think, oh, I can just sit around, law of attraction, sit around and just think on things all day and it's just going to happen. Yeah, maybe when you're an enlightened guru, and you maybe you could manifest like that, but 99.99999% of us are not there yet. And so we have to take physical action. And that's just creating a habit. That's starting it. It's doing something every single day. Like you, I mean, I volunteer. One of the things I do is I decided going beyond, like, yes, I can donate money every month. I'm going to continue that, but I'm going to go to the next level and I'm going to start volunteering. And so I actually volunteer on the board of directors for the Beljanski Foundation, and we do scientific research into natural cures for cancer. And so I joined the board a few years ago now, and I helped produce an annual conference where last year we raised over, I think, $200,000 in donations for our next breast cancer stem cell research project, looking at the effectiveness of various natural plant extracts and their effectiveness at killing breast cancer stem cells. And like, that's a conference I would have done when I did cancer conferences years ago, where like I would have made, tens of thousands of dollars in producing it or whatever, and, would have been paid every month. And it was like, no, I volunteered for this because I feel like even if you can't donate money, you can volunteer time. I don't have enough time. Yes, you do. Find the time. I run multiple businesses. I have multiple full-time things that I do. I have a family. I have 2 kids. I, train as an athlete. And if I can find time to do something like that, you absolutely can find time to do it. My friend Jonathan Otto reached out to me not too long ago, and he says, "Hey, my nonprofit down in Africa and Kenya, our tribes that we support down there, they just had a major flood and it wiped out their crops. And if they don't get food in the ground now, it literally could cause, millions of people to be completely famished and many of them to die, because a lot of them depend on these seeds and food, just to stay alive." And as you're just telling me it, I just had this feeling in my heart, like it was God calling me. It was like, you have to go. Like, yes, help raise money, but go there in person and do what you can. And I just kind of stopped everything. I said, let's go, And so we raised, I think, $150,000. I donated to it. I donated more than what was comfortable for me to be able to donate to that, but I did it because I just, it's like, do more than what you feel is comfortable. Give more, be more generous, and know that things will work out for you because you're doing the right thing to help others. We went down there, and I'll tell you what, it was life-changing and so sad and so heart, wrenching to see literally thousands and thousands of people that are starving to death. I mean, these are people, millions of people live up in northern Africa. This is just Turkana, this is Kenya, not to mention all over Africa and all over India and other parts of the world. Literally, many of these people are eating one meal a week, some of them one meal a month, and that meal is usually like corn and beans. It's very, very sad to see. I mean, skin and bones. I was talking to women that, eyes, cataracts, and just skin and bones. She's like, yeah, I'm lucky if I eat 1 or 2 meals a month. I'm like, most people could never imagine eating just 1 meal a day, of rice and beans or corn and beans. I mean, imagine eating 1 meal a month, 2 meals a month. That's how these people are living, because there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, there's corruption. The money doesn't reach them. There's lots of people live out in the desert all over the place. They don't have good water, all of that. And so we delivered, seeds and tools directly to dozens and dozens of the tribes, reaching tens of thousands of people so that they could plant their crops and, actually have food coming in a few months. So, that was really beautiful to be a part of. And they were very, welcoming and dancing with us and, raising us up in the air and just doing all this stuff. It was really incredible experience. But to be with others who, people think, oh, I've got it bad, my life is bad. Like, go to Turkana, Kenya. Go see what people are really living like, and then tell me your life is bad. Even I know people here in the States are struggling. I get it. I totally understand. Been there, been through a lot of it, still have, challenges that come up from time to time. I totally get it. But I think we got to see the bigger picture as well and just say, look, where in your life can you help others? And that's what's going to bring you fulfillment. And then that's going to bring you abundance. That's going to bring you joy. That's going to bring you more energy to do more of the things you want to do. And if we can stop thinking about just me, and my material and my things and my problems and go, okay, what are things I can do to help others and be of service to others? Your whole life will change. Your whole life will change for the better. Whether you do that through your business, you do it through volunteer time, you do it through donations, you do it with your family, at your church, but just starting to connect to a higher purpose and mission than just getting by. Because unfortunately, That's where so many people are today, is just worried about getting by. And that life sucks, believe me. I know all about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've tens of thousands of dollars of cancer treatments a month. Like, yeah, I know 100%. You know, a lot of it is talk about fulfillment. It makes me think of the analogy of filling your cup. All right. A
Mm,
lot of people, when they think about filling their cup, they think about that analogy of me. What do I need to do for me to fill my cup? And then
right.
once you kind of turn it outwards and it's like, what can I do for other people? Then magically your cup starts to be filled, right? Once you start to be in service of others in a way that aligns with you and that you like helping people, right? There's certain things like obviously there's a lot of people in the world that need a lot of help, but I feel like everyone is called to help in different situation based off of their own experiences. So to me, it's very much directed towards cancer because of my experience, and so that's where
Yeah.
I'm spending a lot of my energy to that kind of happens to fill my cup. And so yeah, I feel like that fulfillment, that cup filling is going outwards. And just to kind of tie it back to one thing you said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, which was that you can have nothing and be happy and be fulfilled. But if you lose your health, it's pretty much the only scenario where you can't be happy. And I can't think of anything truer because it made me think of Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
Right? You've
Yeah.
read that
Viktor
book?
Frankl. Yeah. I mean, Viktor Frankl is one of the greatest books of all time, right? Like, and I want to preface, I think you can still find happiness and peace when you're not healthy. Like it's
Yeah.
very hard to
Just,
do. And I know people,
yeah.
I know Vijay Birch, I interviewed many years ago, in chronic level 8, 9, 10 pain every single day of her life. But through deep mindfulness and meditation practice, she was able to basically start to transcend her mind out of that pain and detach from her body and live a normal life to where the pain isn't destroying her life. Because I can't remember what the disease was that she had, but basically destroying her bones and joints and things like that. I mean, to the
Mm.
point where she was in a wheelchair. And so, I do want to say, yeah, I think it's possible to be healthy and be very unhealthy and be happy, but it makes it certainly a lot more difficult for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, actually, great mention. It's a great thing to kind of to bring up. So I would love to ask you just to kind of switch gear to like the plant based side along your journey of kind of self discovery and kind of going through all of these things. When were you introduced to the world of plant based eating?
So I think the first major like game changing documentary I saw would have been around 2008, I think, which was about Max Gerson, about the Gerson therapy.
Yeah.
It's a really old, not a very like, it's not a high production, not a high budget documentary. It's called,
Was
um,
it when they had a center in the States or like once they moved to Mexico?
I think they still had a center in the States. His daughter, Charlotte, she was the main person in the documentary. I don't even remember if Gerson himself was in it or not. And it was called, I'll have to look it up. It's, early Gerson therapy documentary, because I recommend people watch it. Like, it's, even though it's old school, The Beautiful Truth. Yeah, it came out in 2008, so that's when I must have watched it. It was around 2008, and it
Yeah.
really opened me up to. And it was about cancer. It was about healing cancer patients with the Gerson therapy, right? And
We did
that
Gerson.
was
The last like year of her life, we did Gerson therapy.
you did with your wife.
Yeah, with my late partner. Yeah, she did the Gerson, so very, very familiar with it.
Yeah, yeah, and so I saw that film and started, like, it just opened me up, like, okay. And I was on, deep into a spiritual path. I had already done some cleanses up to that point as well. I'd done some 5-day cleanses, I think 7-day cleanses. I did the master cleanse. So I was already like diving into this health, rabbit hole. And so that kind of
Yeah.
turned me on, like, oh, raw food, vegan food, juicing. And so started watching other films and documentaries and going deeper and like learning from others. And then around 2010, I think. See, around when my daughter was born, I just got this. I was slowly removing animal products. The more I learned, was like, okay, first beef has got to go, and then I think like a
Yeah.
month or 2 months later, or maybe it was dairy first, and then beef, and then couple months in, then it was chicken. And the last thing I was eating was I was still eating fish or raw fish like sushi, But
Yeah.
I was shedding these things away as I was learning more and eating more whole foods, real foods, vegan. A lot of it was raw, and I was feeling amazing. Healing gut issues that I'd had for years, having lots of energy, feeling great. And so the last thing was raw fish. I went to my favorite sushi place. We went and ate out and ate the normal stuff I used to love to eat. Came home and got so sick. I was like throwing up. And that
Yeah.
was it. That was the last straw. I was like, okay, no more fish. Done. I just don't need it. I don't need it anymore. And so I think it was like 2010. So we went raw vegan at that point for a year. My wife and I, and my daughter, she was, breastfeeding, so she was raw vegan as well with,
Yeah.
vegan mother milk.
I get
If
it.
you
I
could
get
call it, you know what I
it.
mean? She was getting vegan milk from her mother, who was a raw
Yeah.
vegan, um, breast milk. And so my wife and I were raw vegan completely. I think it was 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. And then from there, and then I was a part of helping produce some raw like conferences and expos, and so learning more and exposed to more and diving in deeper into researching and learning. Health, just I knew what it was like to be really, really unhealthy, and so when I go into a different direction, I go all in, right? Like with cancer research, like it's been over a decade where I've literally spent well over 10,000 hours in cancer research, reading hundreds and hundreds of studies, interviewing 500 or 600 experts and cancer conquerors in the field. It's like when I go into something, I just go all in deep for years. And so the deeper I went into vegan and vegetarian and plant-based, and I just kept learning and doing more cleanses and 14-day cleanses and fasting and juice fast, and just kept going deeper and deeper. And then started to get interested in the research probably around 2000 and I don't know, 14, 15, like 13, 14, 15, 16, getting more and more interested in the actual research itself, reading scientific publications, like actually learning how to read a study and what the studies are saying and, all of that. And so, yeah, I don't call myself vegan because technically I'm not like true vegan. I know vegan has a lot of,
There's
it's
an
an interesting word
ethical.
nowadays. It's
Yeah,
an
it's
interesting word
loaded.
nowadays.
It's a
It's
loaded
loaded.
word. Yeah. I
Yeah.
honestly, man, I thought about changing the name of the company like 2 years ago because of how loaded it was becoming.
Yeah.
But it's just
It's
such a
what
good
happened in the
name.
raw food community too. Raw food became like raw foodists. It was like it became this elite group. It was like a lot of ego involved. Oh, if you're not raw food vegan, you're not cool. And it was like a couple of years, 2 or 3 years of noticing that, I was like, nah, that's not for me. I started eating cooked food
Yeah.
again. Part of it, part of it, I think we ended up moving to the 600-acre ranch in the middle of the Arizona desert, and it was like an hour and a half to the nearest grocery store. So part of it
Yeah.
was getting good raw, food to make was challenging. So I started doing like rice and beans and stuff like that. I think the other part too was like I was just getting over that whole kind of raw vegan community thing because it just felt too elitist at that point, and I'm just like, too much ego, and I'm trying to like shed more and more of my ego away, trying to be
Yeah.
more spiritually enlightened. And so
Isn't
it's
that
like,
funny though
okay,
that a lot of people go raw vegan or kind of like clean up their health to kind of be more spiritually in line and have less egos, but they end up entering these little small pockets of community that are super big egos. Like if you're not this thing, then you're not cool. You're screwing it up for everyone. And
exactly.
yeah, it's yeah.
So
I've seen it throughout the years.
that's why I just say I'm plant based. Like I'm plant based.
Yeah,
Yes, I'll eat a couple eggs once in a while. I don't do dairy. I don't do any meat. I don't do fish, chicken, beef. I haven't eaten any of that since I think my daughter was born. Like I said,
yeah,
2010, 2011. Dairy, like I'm not opposed to like, hey, maybe having a couple eggs once in a while, or I haven't had raw milk since back then, but in the certain circumstance, like if I was at somebody's house in the Alps where they raise their own sheep and they had some fresh raw sheep's milk they would offer me, maybe I'd try it. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm
yeah.
not going to eat animals. I have too much compassion for animals. I have too much like there's just no need to kill animals for our food. We do not need to. period. And I believe every animal has a soul. I believe they have a soul just like humans do. I see it in my own animals. I see it in my dogs. I see it in horses. I see it in cows. I see it in pigs, right? Like I went and saw my wife's family has pigs in Mexico, and their life is a bit of a challenging life, and they
Yeah.
raise them there, and like I'm sitting there just talking with the pigs and hanging out with them. I'm looking in their eyes. I'm like, this looks like a human looking back at me, and it's like I just feel all this energy and love coming towards me. It's like, how could we eat these poor animals? We don't need to, And I grew up on meat and potatoes in Montana, like hunting my own deer,
Yeah.
fishing our own fish, fly fishing and trout fishing and all of that. And actually, it was funny when I moved to San Diego. Before I was vegan, or before I became plant based, a friend invited me to, and I was kind of on this spiritual path and meditating and stuff for a couple of years already, invited me to go fishing at the beach, I think in Oceanside. And we went there, and there was just something, a part of me, I was like, why? Like, I don't want to hurt this fish. What do? You catch it and then you let it go? Like, you're not even going to eat it? Like,
Poked a hole in his mouth for nothing.
yeah, like for fun? Like, that's fun? Like, are you kidding me? Like, torturing some animal is fun? What do you think
Yeah.
that animal's going through? Oh, they don't care. Oh, yeah, let me put a freaking hook through your mouth and say you don't care. You
Yeah. Just
know,
release you after.
catch and release you, buddy. Send you out on the pier, and someone can kick you off the end of it and see what you think about that. Like, are you going to enjoy that? Of course not. So I already
Yeah.
started having that feeling of like, man, I don't want to hurt animals. I have no desire to. And that eventually, I think the more spiritual we become, the more compassionate we become, the less we want to eat animals. And the more we realize, hey, we can get every piece of nourishment we need from fruits and vegetables and plants and nuts and seeds. And yeah, maybe we need to take a B12 supplement once in a while. Maybe we need to take a little supplement here and there, but big deal. If we can not put innocent animals through all that torturing and all that suffering, and we can be incredibly healthy and strong and vital doing it, then why wouldn't we?
Yeah. I think for me, it's the food that brought me to be more compassionate and more spiritual, because I wasn't spiritual. I was like a bro bodybuilder. Like I didn't have
Yeah,
compassion in me. I was just like a meathead lifting heavy weights. And I went vegan. It kind of exposes you to, the animal cruelty, the environment and the health and all that. And then that's
yeah,
when I softened up. That's when I
yeah.
became kind of more open to being more spiritual. But yeah, for me, it's the food that brought me there. So for you, it was more like going down that spiritual path and realizing that eating this type of way could just lead you to feel just, again, more free, more enlightened, kind of more in alignment with what you were trying to live.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not enlightened yet. Hopefully one day,
Yeah.
but working on it,
More.
working on it. But yes, it was a combination of both. It was like compassion through spirituality kind of led me, but then learning about health and was like, oh, compassion and health together. Like, this is great. And so like they just kept compounding. And then it got me into sustainability. And so I actually did a documentary series that toured the US, even went down to Costa Rica, went all over the US, did a documentary series called The Search for Sustainability. I think it's still on YouTube for free, and visit all these places. And I was just like, started seeing this connection of being plant-based and sustainability for the planet, compassion for animals. Because the question was like, okay, what's the best way for us to be healthy? Well, it's to grow our own food, to eat seasonally, to grow without chemicals, to grow organically, and to grow locally, right? Like everybody who's ever gone down the vegan path has probably heard that. Seasonal,
Yeah.
local, organic. Well, how do you get seasonal, local, organic? Yeah, you can go to your farmers markets, right? And that's great. But really, it's about growing our own food, because farmers markets are feeding a tiny, tiny percentage of the population of people. Most of our food comes from other states and other countries, shipped across the country and across the world. So as I started diving into like sustainability and regeneration and learning permaculture, and then I'm like, okay, then how do we grow sustainably and regeneratively, and how do we do it in harmony with nature? And so I want to do a documentary series on that and like go learn firsthand. So I went to these permaculture farms and went to Washington D.C. and interviewed politicians, and I started looking at sustainability through multiple lenses, like relationships, spirituality, environment, water, food, community, everything. And so that was another kind of game changer for me. Was, look, if we want to be healthy, be compassionate, connected spiritually, and actually have self-sustainability for ourselves, our family, our future generations, for the planet, then we need to grow our own food. And our own food is what connects us with nature, connects us with God, is good for our health. It's local, it's seasonal. So I've experimented with that over the years. The challenge is, like, for some reason, we're slightly nomadic. And so we end up moving every so
Yeah.
often. And so, like, start a garden and some fruit trees and stuff, and then we end up moving, and then we're in a 600-acre ranch and, like, bring the whole fruit orchards to life and gardens and stuff, and then we end up moving. And then so it's like, now I don't have as much of a garden as I would like to, but one day I hope
Yeah.
to have more of a permanent, farm and land and stuff set up. But I still think supporting farmers markets, getting more connected to our local food, like, that's the real solution. And not even, like, forget about the conversation of climate change and what produces more greenhouse gases and stuff like that. Just forget about the whole thing. It doesn't even matter, in my opinion. Forget about it. Because the truth of the matter is, if we want to be healthy and sustainable, period, then growing our own food locally is the number one solution. Number one
Yeah.
solution. We grow regeneratively using permaculture. Permaculture is the solution that we're all looking for when it comes to growing things that are sustainable, that harm the least amount of animals, right? We talked about vegan earlier. Like, vegan is more of an ethical, viewpoint, right? It's harming the least amount of animals possible. In that definition, I'm definitely vegan. Like, I'm all about harming the least amount of animals possible. My wife doesn't like that I let the cockroach, walk around the floor. It's like, I'm in Florida. We have cockroaches. Like, doesn't matter how
Dude,
clean we
they're
keep our
big there
house.
too.
Dude, they're pretty big. Like, but, like,
Yeah.
the spider takes care of him. Like, he's got 3 built up in his corner right now. So, like, I'm not gonna kill the spider. I'm not gonna kill the cockroach. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
just have to be a pig or a cow. But that's that's something I'm working on. I'm still trying with mosquitoes, man. I'm trying the Sri Yukteswar way of, like, where he told Yogananda, it's because you have mosquito consciousness. I don't like mosquitoes coming and biting me, so I'm trying to get out of mosquito consciousness, so they just leave me alone. But again, we're in Florida; it's a little hard. We got a lot of mosquitoes
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Um, Now, I love the idea of growing your own food. Like, yeah, I was just thinking of, like, man, I kind of wish I did that. But just like you, we move so much and we travel so much that, like,
no, it's
our
challenging.
plants in the house die. Like, that's how often we travel. Like, we're not even here often enough to kind of water the plants. So I guess, like, depending on the phase of your life, right? If you know your put
Exactly.
and your personality too. I love being in other people's house, meaning like
Mm,
Airbnb. Like, I just love
mm,
seeing different designs and architecture, being in a new city. So yeah, maybe at one point in my life, just like you, I'll kind of like settle and then have a proper
yeah.
garden because I grew up with one.
It takes a long time, I'll tell you what. Like, I've got a little raised bed thing. We've got a little fruit tree. We've got in the house, my wife takes care of a decent amount of plants in the house, which I highly recommend everyone has plants at least in the house, that they clean the air. They're beautiful, right? They connect you to nature, like, super important. We even grow, we grow a little mint, some herbs here and there, some basil, stuff like that. I mean, even a little window garden can be better than nothing, right?
Yeah,
But same thing, like, running multiple businesses, full-time family, training, all that stuff. Like, yeah, at this stage of my life, having, a big garden to manage and maintain just doesn't work for my time. That's not where my priority is, even though
yeah,
it probably should be. Probably, and maybe soon that will become more of where my priority goes once again, as it used to be multiple times over the years. It's just, I find
yeah,
that it takes time, like a permaculture garden. My friend, she's on, like, even a quarter acre or less, maybe an eighth of an acre in Tampa, and she just has, and her house takes up like half of that. It's like a pretty
yeah,
big house, and she still has this massive permaculture garden around her whole house. She's got, like, avocado trees, and she's got giant jackfruit trees, and she's got all kinds of berries and bushes and herbs and vegetables and fruits. It's amazing how much she grows in this tiny space. But it's an hour, 2 hours every night after work. It's 8 hours on Saturday, 8 hours on Sunday, every single week. But she
yeah,
loves it. It brings good food to her family, right? It brings, love to her and joy. So I look forward to that, at some point once again. But like you said, it is kind of a time and place thing, I think. But if we want
yeah,
to talk about true sustainability of humanity, and yes, reducing carbon emissions, yes, being healthier, yes, less harm to animals, it's definitely permaculture. And it's, even if it's community permaculture or little permaculture in your backyard, doing a hugel culture, for example, right? There's just so many ways we can work with permaculture to be regenerative and self-sustained in our food. And I think that's actually the solution that I plan on bringing to Africa,
Yeah.
because these guys are in the desert. They're dying. They're starving to death. No water, no food, very few trees. And yet with permaculture, you can turn the desert into an oasis. We need some money. We need some tools. We need labor, right? But all of that can be done, because then once you create it, then it's self-sustained. You manage
Yeah.
it, you take care of it, but it brings more water. It keeps the water in the ground, right? You dig swells, you plant trees, you create, ground covering, you create synergistic plants to support each other. And so it's, I want to create a model and a blueprint there that then can be duplicated and used all over Africa and all over the world to help end so much famine that's happening. I mean, the fact that people are still starving to death in 2024, millions of people all
Yeah.
over the world,
And when
that
there's so much
in my
food waste
mind is,
here too.
yeah, it's unacceptable.
Mhm.
It's unacceptable. So,
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, I've got to do something about it.
Yeah. Well, it says a lot about who you are, right? There's a problem, come up with solution, build a system, and then make it happen. Um, I love to shift gears a little bit and go into the fitness side. I see on your shirt, PPA, plant powered athlete. So, do you mind kind of sharing what that is? Because I heard about it before Robert introduced us, because I was seeing it on Instagram. So, what was the original founding idea behind plant powered athlete?
Yeah, honestly, like I was pretty reluctant to even start it. I've been like, for the last couple of years, like kind of just this intuition saying, like this kind of calling, like, hey, you got to do something in the athlete space. Hey, you got to do something in the supplement space. Hey, in plant based, like this is your passion, is what you do. You love it. You live it every single day. And I was pretty reluctant, just so busy with everything we're doing, with cancer and helping people with cancer and all the other work. But I had a good friend, Manny, who kind of sat down with me, and we did like a visioning process, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like, what do you really want to do? Like, what is your heart calling you to do? What is that thing that, you feel is you're so passionate about right now that you would love to do? And it was like, boom, plant powered athlete. Like, bring plant-based nutrition, education, inspiration, high quality, scientifically formulated supplements to the market, in a crowded space that's filled with a lot of junk and garbage and misinformation out there, and do it in a really good, clean way. And so reluctantly I went in and just with that clarity, I was like, all right, I got to do it. So what do? Formulate my first protein powder. And I saw in the market, like I've been taking protein powders for years,
Yeah.
and it's hard to find really good ones, clean ones that aren't filled with either 30 or 40 or 50 ingredients, which most of them are literally, I was talking to someone the other day, like, you're like, oh yeah, I got all these 50 ingredients in here. Number one, that many ingredients at one time. When would you ever eat 50 ingredients in nature at one time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
What's
two,
that
three,
green
four, five,
company?
six.
What's the green company? I feel like that's
Athletic
probably
greens,
the
is
one
it
you're referring.
athletic greens?
Yeah, yeah, that's the
There's
one.
athletic greens, but then there's Orgain. There's a whole bunch of companies out there. I don't want to name any companies specifically, but that do a couple things. One, either they have 30, 40, 50 ingredients, and literally, like, let's say it has carrot, parsley, spinach, kale, whatever, and you were to take the amount that's per serving of that, it's less than the tip of your fingernail. Like,
Yeah,
that's how much kale you're getting. That's how much parsley or how much carrot or whatever. Like, what's the point of that? It's just a sales and marketing thing, period.
yeah,
So
for
that was
sure.
one thing I saw that's going on that's just like, in my mind, like misleading people. They think they're getting a lot of nutrition. They're really not, maybe it's a weak multivitamin at best. Number
Yeah,
two, like, or they're loading their products with additional amino acids instead of the protein. That's another issue. You kind of, instead of the whole protein source, like adding processed amino acids to it to make up for the lacking protein. Like, that's a thing you have to look out for. Another thing is there's so many of them are full of processed sugar. So much sugar, so much processed sugar. It's just terrible for you. We know that. We don't need all that extra sugar. Or they're filled with all kinds of junk additives, like, that have no real main purpose other than preserving or feeling space and or preserving it. So preservatives, additives, you've got, terrible ingredients, lots of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, because they're not organic, they're not certified. Like that's honestly 80, 90% plus of the protein powder market. And so
Yeah.
I talk to people who are 27 and they go, God, I've got terrible gut problems and GI issues and all these issues. And I'm like, let me look at your protein. Let me look at your pre-workout. Let me look at your supplements. And every one of them's got 3, 5, 7, 8, 12 ingredients that I have researched previously for cancer specifically that have studies showing, oh, this is possible endocrine disruptor. This is possible carcinogen. This has studies showing that it tears holes in the gut lining, right? Like this
Yeah.
disrupts your gut, like all these issues. I'm like, no wonder. Look at what you're putting in your body every day. That stuff is garbage. So I went to and I'm not saying all of it out there is, but honestly, a lot of it, most of
Yeah.
it, from what I've seen.
A
And
good
so,
rule of thumb is if they're owned by a massive corporation or they got a small company got bought out by a massive corporation, that's usually when there's like a cheapening of the ingredients and they're
yeah,
trying to use more filler. I used to work in that space. And same thing when they got bought out, the quality went to shit. They're like, oh, we increased our profit margin. We put all these cheap ingredients. It's like more per scoop. So yeah, usually if there's still like a smaller owned company, usually the quality is still good because the original founder is still there and he still cares.
yeah. So that's where we're at right now, right? Is we we are at that. We want to maintain that for forever, And so
Yeah.
we created a really high quality, like scientifically formulated. That's my background, research, like really digging into research as a certified holistic cancer coach and a certified professional nutrition coach, and really looking at hundreds, if not thousands, of studies up to this point, and understanding like, all right, what makes something actually beneficial. So like we have the 211 branched chain amino acid profile. A lot of people don't even know what that is. They don't realize that there's studies that have been done that shows that in terms of muscle protein synthesis and increasing gains after workouts, like there is kind of an ideal ratio that's been studied for improving your return on investment on your body, and so we have that ideal branched chain amino acid profile with 5 different kinds of plant protein in there to get you that ideal branched chain. A lot of proteins like just rice or just pea or whatever, and so you're getting a limited amino acid profile, and
Yeah. You
so
need more
you want a
leucine, right?
2-1-1. Yeah, you want
You,
2-1-1 leucine, isoleucine to valine. You want 2 leucine to 1 isoleucine to 1 valine, and so basically, that was important to me. So we did that. So we're actually focusing on something that's going to get people results.
yeah.
High quality, it's organic, it's certified. So you know not grown with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, all these things that are carcinogens, that are endocrine disruptors, that are, probable or known carcinogens or probable endocrine disruptors or gut, disruptors, right?
Yeah.
So that was really important. And then adding in not 100 ingredients that have no value, but 3 or 4 ingredients, like 3 adaptogens, for example, that actually we use the quantities of milligrams of those adaptogens that are in the studies that show increased endurance, improved recovery times, improved overall performance, improved energy, right? With ginseng and ashwagandha and maca, for example. Like we don't just
I
put a
love the
tiny bit of
maca
these there.
taste.
Oh, maca's amazing, dude. And it's so good for you. I mean, that's the thing
Yeah.
is these adaptogens, like they've been shown to really help with stress reduction in the body, but overall, like improve performance, improve endurance, improve energy, improve recovery times. So we wanted to use, the actual amounts in the studies in the formulation. And then again, not a bunch of like processed sugar. It's just organic monk fruit. So there's actually no sugar at all. It's just organic monk fruit. It's a natural sweetness,
Yeah.
vanilla,
Cancer fighting
and then
too.
coconut powder. Yeah, exactly. So that's our
Yeah.
first product. It's the first in a big lineup of high quality, scientifically formulated, super clean products. And I'll tell you what, we just launched it. Like we're almost sold out of our first order. We're in the situation like, oh, we need to order more. We've got a lot, like things are growing fast. People are loving it. Our challenge is we probably didn't order the next batch soon enough because we didn't think we were going to sell
Yeah.
out so fast. So hopefully we get it in time before we completely run out. But it's going to be, we're going to keep up with it and keep coming. And then, then we'll have chocolate, and then we'll have another flavor. And then we've got some really cool ideas down the road of different kinds. But yeah, we just, in terms of like, we don't need another protein powder in the market, right? Like that's not what it is. We're here really to support people in taking ownership of their health and do it through high quality, clean, organic, scientific formulated supplements and education and inspiration, and bring plant-based nutrition to millions and millions of people, and really show people, everybody, no matter what your age is, can be an athlete. That's the big key takeaway with plant-powered athletes. Like, we're not just only serving athletes, even though that's a big group of our demographics. We are serving all people who are active at all, and saying, look, if you think of yourself like an athlete, right? This is what I'm sharing with everybody all the time. Think of yourself like an athlete. Why? Because when I started thinking of myself like an athlete at 30 years old, when I wasn't, I started taking better care of my health. I started focusing more on sleep, started focusing more on things that are good for my body, like recovery, like stretching, like mobilizing, like massaging my body, right? Like I was already deep into the nutrition side. So but even thinking more of like, oh, how do I fuel my body better as an athlete? That's an important thing. And as we age, it's really important to think about how you fuel your body as you age, how much protein you get. We need more. The studies show we need more protein as we age, and we need more protein the more active and fit we are. So if you think of yourself as an athlete, you're going to take better care of yourself. You take better care of yourself, we're going to have a better, healthier world with less problems in the world, less, trillions of dollars in healthcare expenses, less suffering. And so we really are here to help people take ownership of their health and to live their healthiest lives.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And so also, just for the people that are listening, I'll put the link down below so you guys can go and check it out. But the mention of athlete is, to me, everyone that exercises is an athlete, because you're trained. You're, again, I don't want to sound cheesy, but you're training for the sport of life, right? Like, life's going to happen. I saw a video and I got shit for resharing it, but it was a lady that was slightly overweight that was carrying a baby stroller, and it started rolling down the street, and she didn't have the ability to run after it.
I saw that video.
Right. And someone else had to kind of come in and kind of like grab the baby stroller so I wouldn't go into traffic. Like, that's life. You have to be able to sprint for these kind of situations. If you have kids, you have people that you care for, like, you have to be able to care for them. And so it's not only for the people, like right now it's the Olympics going on. It's not just for the Olympics. So to me, there's professional athletes, and then there's the rest of us, right? The ones that don't make money. Actually, Olympic athletes don't make a ton of money competing, but there's the rest of us who like train for life. And so being fit can save your life. It can save the life of someone around you, right? Like, if your wife gets stuck somewhere, you can pick her up, put her on your back, and you can hike out of a mountain if she got hurt on a hike, right?
Well, and I want to be able to do that when I'm 70, 80, like, maybe not hike her out of a mountain, but like maybe I'm 80, 85, 90, and be able to be active with my grandkids, right? Like, that's being an athlete as we age, like being able to actually get down in a squat and stand back up, or pick something up without throwing out your back. That if you play tennis once or twice a week with friends, or you go to the gym a couple days, you cycle, you walk, you jog, whatever, like, think of yourself as an athlete and start saying, you know what, I am an athlete. I'm an athlete. I'm a 58-year-old athlete. I'm a 45-year-old athlete. I'm a 72-year-old athlete. I play tennis twice a week. I'm a tennis athlete. I walk. Okay. I'm a walking athlete. I swim. I'm a swimming athlete. Yes, you are. Just that mental shift alone will start getting you thinking, well, how does an athlete take care of himself? Oh, well, we sleep better. We sleep more. We want to recover more. How do I get better as an athlete? Oh, I need to, recover faster. I need better nutrition. I need more protein. I need more plant-based. Is that right? It just creates that snowball effect where then we have a healthier society.
Yeah. And again, to me, it's impressive when I meet people in their 60s and their 70s that are in shape. Like, I was doing a swimming workout maybe 2 months ago, and I can swim, I don't know what it is in yard, but about like a minute and like 23 seconds per 100 meters. So like, I'm a pretty decent swimmer for like a normal person. And man, I was swimming, and this guy that just like kept keeping up with me lap for lap. And he comes out the water, and dude's like 65 years old, and he was just like clocking me every time. I was like, that's very impressive. The guy, like, he more than double my age.
Dude, have you seen the 60-year-olds and 65-year-olds at the CrossFit Games? Like, those dudes
they're jacked.
Those dudes are beasts. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Like
amazing
old
what they
man
can do.
strength is real.
These are guys that take really good care of themselves, that like really focus on nutrition, recovery, and sleep and training and all this stuff, you know. And some of them
Yeah.
didn't start until they were 50. Like there's a dude that is he's got the world records for powerlifting. I think on his deadlift, his squat, maybe on his bench. I think he's 65 in his 60s, 60 no
Yeah.
70s. He's got these massive numbers too. I mean, I'm talking like I think he deadlifts more than I do. I think he deadlifts like 600 pounds or something if I can remember. He's
Wow.
lifting massive weight. He didn't even start until he was like in his 50s or early 60s, I think, and he's in his
Yeah.
70s, crushing it. You know, so possibilities are just endless.
Yeah. Well, let me add something to that because I had that conversation with my wife, and that's going to make people that are listening that haven't really worked out in the past that want to feel good. I feel that if you were not super moderately active your whole life, like you weren't an athlete, you weren't training hard, and you're starting later, you have such higher chances of performing so much better than I when I'm going to be 60 and 70. Because I've been an athlete my whole life and I'm 31 and my joints hurt from powerlifting when I was 18. Like my body is hurting from, 18 years almost of me training hard and playing basketball and bodybuilding and powerlifting and Ironman and all of these things. So by the time I'm 60, my joints will have been used up. I don't know where technology is going to be, but if you start training at like 40 and 50 and you didn't really do too much your whole life, man, like your knees are so much better than mine by the time you get there. So I think that's a big bonus for them to kind of start a little bit later. They preserve their body a lot more than I did.
I think I hear that if you become a master Kriya yoga practitioner, that you'll be able to regenerate all those tissues just with the power of your mind. So maybe your joints will be healthier at 60 than they are in your 30s.
Well, I'm gonna work
if you learn
towards
if you
it.
learn Kriya yoga, actually that's one thing. Like I wish I started much sooner. Well, I did start yoga much sooner, but like when I got into CrossFit, like one of the things I wish I really focus on like every week, instead of just doing more and more training, heavier weights, was like make sure I'm doing yoga, Pilates, things like that multiple days a week,
Yeah.
to keep the joints healthy, to keep things, to prevent the injury, to keep the flexibility and mobility. Because the injuries generally come, and the joint problems actually generally come because
Stiffness.
we lose that mobility, we get stiff, the muscles tight, the fascia actually tightens and pulls on things, right? So
Yeah.
you should have Deanna Hansen on your podcast. I can connect you if you want with
Yeah.
block therapy. Like she's a fascia master, and she's just incredible because understanding, once you start clearing up the fascia that's stuck in your toes or your neck or wherever, all of a sudden your body straightens up and your face gets more healthy looking, and your joints get healthier and everything starts to feel better because the fascia starts to actually get into its normal place where it should be, instead of bound up because we sit in a chair like this typing all day long, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then the fascia gets tight there, and then you get up, you're like, oh, my back, oh, my knees, oh, my this, oh, my that. But when you
Yeah.
start to relax and loosen all that and heal it, then a lot of those problems actually start to go away. And I have seen it actually in people who've aged, let's say 50, 60 years plus, who start doing yoga, who do fascia work, who do Pilates, stuff like that, that actually their joints get healthier, the tendons get healthier, they start to feel better. My dad's a good example. I mean, his knees are, boy, I mean, unbelievable. But just the fact that he's been doing more like physical therapy type of stuff on his knee, strengthening it with lots of reps at low weight, and like it's getting
Yeah.
stronger and stronger and less painful every single day. So a lot of people as they age, they think, oh, use is the problem. Use is not the problem. Lack of use becomes the problem, and lack of range, lack of access to that range is actually the problem. Right.
Yeah.
So we need more range, we need more flexibility, and we need more strength in that end range. And then those joints get healthier and less painful. I mean, I'm going through some stuff right now that's almost healed with like knee tendonitis, bicep tendonitis stuff, because it's like I was just pushing myself to the extreme, in my training. Like,
Yeah.
and
And
the
were you
David Goggins
stretching?
mentality, I'll tell you what, anybody who listens to that, I'm like, guys, I mean, that's how I've lived a lot of my life. And a lot of times it just ends in pain and misery. you
Yeah.
know,
It's,
it's, yeah, I don't
everyone
recommend
hates
it.
stretching. Everyone hates stretching. And I feel like that's the thing that makes the biggest difference. Like I think we talked about this when we were recording, but started playing basketball again and just like dunking. I wasn't able to dunk when I was in college, but now magically I can in my 30s. So hey, I'm happy
Yeah.
about it. But man, with the shoulders and the lats being tight, every time I
Yeah.
hang and my whole weight goes, my lats and my shoulder just like overstretch. And I'm like, oh, I can feel the stiffness of the lats and the shoulder. So yeah, stretching sucks. No one likes to do it. And yeah, it's just about doing it. But it takes,
I mean, and sometimes it's just like, just go to a yoga class or something. Like I went to a heated yoga class last night and it's like, dude, I feel
nice.
so amazing at the end of that, or
Yeah.
create a habit, like 15 minutes of stretching before you work out. Like just create that habit, and the habit of everyday thing, or first thing in the morning, whenever you do it. I like it ideally like right before I work out. I'll do like 20 minutes of mobility and stretching. And when
Yeah.
I got away from that, like I started after 6, 7 months of kind of getting away from that, just like kind of rushing into workouts. Oh, got some pain, got some issues, got some tightness, kept training through it, and then boom, inflamed, tendonitis. Now my body's angry. You know what I mean? It's like, you didn't listen to me. And a lot of it was I got away from that practice of like 20 minutes. I would do 20 minutes every day before I worked out and after I worked out. And it helped maintain me. It helped maintain the wear and tear that I was, putting on my body for sure.
Yeah.
So, we live and learn. It's like, all right, I'm not gonna make that mistake again. Start adding that back in every day.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I've made that mistake multiple times. Like I get into it and then I stop and I get injured. I was like, okay, I'm gonna stretch, and then I stretch and then I step away from it, then I get injured, and it's just like the cycle
Yeah,
every like
yeah. We
few
gotta
years.
learn at some point. We gotta learn at some point.
Exactly. Um, so I love to talk as the last point about cancer, because obviously you brought up a few times you've done some research in that field. The conversation of mobility and stretching with exercise and nutrition, paints a picture of the holistic view of what is needed for you to take care of your body. It's not just exercising, it's not just nutrition, it's not just stretching. There's so much more to it. So when it comes to cancer, that's one of the things that I've learned throughout my own journey is like, hey, it's not just about nutrition. It's not just about sleep. It's about the whole view in multiple areas that you kind of need to deal through. So do you mind kind of sharing your knowledge and kind of in the research that you've done? Like what are some of the things that would have an impact on someone's health if they are dealing with cancer, if they're trying to reduce their risk of cancer?
Yeah, number one is you have to understand where cancer comes from, right? We have this subconscious belief that cancer is something we catch, it's something we get. He got cancer.
Mm,
My grandpa got cancer. Like that's what sent me down that path. When my grandfather was diagnosed, and I saw that it wasn't really the cancer that was, destroying him. It was the chemotherapy and radiation. And I thought I should have been able to help him, and I couldn't. I didn't know anything about cancer. And then in 2012 and 2013, he passed away, and it was just like, wow, I got to learn everything I can about this. And so I dug deep in the research, started interviewing all the doctors, and started producing conferences and magazines and summits and documentaries and you name it, learning everything I possibly could, and working with cancer patients and interviewing people who have overcome cancer using a holistic approach. And so they've taught me. I've learned from them, from dozens and dozens of doctors who've reversed cancer patients, and from cancer conquerors who've reversed every kind of cancer from stage 1 to stage 4 and beyond, using a holistic approach, and assimilate the information and turned it into a masterclass and turned it into, training and understanding of like, okay, this is what causes cancer and this is what we can do about it. And so, I actually have a book people can go download for free, because that's a big, long conversation. I can give that away for people if you want. But
yeah.
the basics of it is, number one, we got to learn what causes cancer. Dr. Lodi, Dr. Thomas Lodi, famous, integrative cancer physician, friend of mine out of Thailand, he says, look, I teach my patients not how to get rid of the cancer, but how to stop making cancer. We have to learn how to stop making cancer, because your body's making it for a reason. And when you realize what's the cause of that or causes, then we can get the body to stop making cancer. You realize that, God didn't punish you with this. This wasn't an accident. It's not genetics. Genetics play a very tiny role in cancer. Even cancer.gov, less than 5% of cancer generally is considered hereditary. Like, we know genes play a
Yeah.
role, but we also know we can turn genes on and off. We know that we can downregulate cancer genes. We know that 50% of women with the BRCA1 gene never get cancer. So if the genes cause cancer, then 100% of women with the gene would have cancer, but they don't. 50% of women never get cancer. So what do they do to where they don't get cancer, right? And that's what I've studied over the years. And so one is, okay, what causes cancer? Well, we know, and actually Greg Braden said it best to me years ago. I think this applies for cancer and for just every chronic metabolic disease on the planet. Is number one is it's due to deficiencies, and it's due to toxicities. So we have toxic burden overload, right? We're just overloaded with things that our body doesn't need, and we don't have enough of what our body needs. So deficiencies, minerals, vitamins, nutrients, water, fiber, love, sunlight, exercise. I mean, most people are deficient in one or more of those areas, right?
Or
Purpose and
all of
meaning
them.
in life, sense of fulfillment, happiness, all these things regulate our nervous system. So all those things that we're deficient in are going to cause problems in the body. Toxicities, toxic burden, heavy metals, endocrine disruptors, plastics. I have a whole deeply researched entire presentation I teach on this. I taught it at the Holistic Holiday at Sea, the vegan cruise this last year. I've done a webinar on it about the top toxins that are directly associated with causing cancer that we're exposed to every single day. And it's toxins in food, water, and air. And the thing is, I don't teach these things just to teach people about them. I give them the solutions. There's solutions to every single one of these things, right? But
Yeah.
toxic burden, your food is filled with toxins, your water is filled with toxins, your air is filled with toxins, your home is filled with toxins. Your stress is a toxin to your body, right? So deficiencies and toxicities. So we have too much of things we don't need and not enough of things we need. Now, what happens if we look at why the cancer process happens, and we look at the metabolic approach to cancer, then we would say that it's due to mitochondrial damage. It's due to the mitochondria being damaged, or not enough mitochondria. They become dysfunctional, which actually in turn leads to DNA damage, which causes the cell to become cancerous and to proliferate. Cancer is actually trying to save your life.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Like, a tumor is just wrapping all those cancer cells into one area. So we go in and we go, oh, tumor's bad, let's cut it out. Yeah, but what happened to the cancer stem cells? Well, you didn't get the cancer stem cells, not with surgery, chemotherapy, or radiation. None of those get rid of the cancer stem cells. So you can cut it out all you want, burn it, radiate it. But those stem cells, if the environment doesn't change in the body, right, which we know cancer thrives in a anaerobic environment, so low oxygen, right? Cancer can't live in a high oxygen environment. It also lives in an acidic environment. It can't live in an alkaline environment, or has a very, very tough time. And so we know that bringing more oxygen through exercise and food, we know that bringing more alkalinity, and I'm not talking about the alkaline diet, but more alkalinity balance. And I'm not just talking about in the urine, I'm talking about in the blood, because the body will always regulate its own alkalinity. It will pull minerals from the bone if it has to, right? It will always keep that perfect pH. That's why, if you have acidity in your blood, you're probably dead or going to die really quickly. You can't measure acidity in your blood, and acidity in your urine is not accurate because, alkaline and acidity in your body's always releasing, through the urine anyway. So what's happening is that the cancer cell creates an acidic environment around it, and then it thrives in acidic and low oxygen environment. So bring more oxygen, bring more oxygenating foods, bring more oxygen through pranayama, through breath work, bring more oxygen through exercise, right? These kinds of things can help.
Yeah.
Also,
Hyperbaric, we
really
did a
good
lot.
healthy foods. Hyperbaric's amazing. A lot of cancer doctors I work with use hyperbaric for their patients because they've seen incredible results with it. So,
Can I just add something?
And then figure out where the toxicities are in your life.
Yeah, I'd like to
and
add one
reduce,
thing.
mitigate, and eliminate them.
When you mentioned that the tumor is the body's way of protecting itself from the cells, man, I just had a flashback to when my lead partner was going through cancer. It was funny at the time, but kind of weird. But she was like, she named it to me. because like,
Mm.
like the luggage company, and she would make
Oh
sure
yeah.
to talk to it like nicely and with love every day, to be like, thank you for protecting my body. Thank you for doing the work that you do. I just had a flashback. It made me emotional.
Mm.
I was trying not to cry when you were talking, but yeah, she
Yeah.
named it to me, and she would talk to it every day to say, thank you for protecting my body. And yeah, so it's crazy how
Yeah.
the body
Um,
works.
Man, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I'm sorry for what you went through and for your partner. She passed away. Yeah,
Yeah. Over 3 years ago.
3 years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, that had to be tough, man. I'm really sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. But no, sorry, you can continue. I just had this flashback of like, I want people to understand that the tumor is the thing that's like saving you. It's lumping it in one spot, so it's not creating damage across the whole body.
Yeah, the cancer is not the problem. Like we treat cancer as if it's the enemy, the invader, right? It's let's attack it with everything we got. Well, yes, it will eventually take over. It proliferates, it spreads, it metastasizes, but it's not the enemy. It's not really what you should be going after, unless like the only time the doctors I work with recommend like, hey, let's do aggressive treatment because look, maybe it's blocking your ability to defecate. Maybe it's like very painful, right? Maybe it's just a huge tumor and it's really uncomfortable. And look, maybe we can reduce that down a bit and give some targeted chemo like IPT, insulin potentiation therapy, which is low dose targeted chemo coupled with insulin so that it actually targets the cancer like without destroying the rest of your immune system, your body. Like there's a lot of conventional modern therapies we can use that are low impact on the body that can give some, some support. The problem is if that's all we do and we don't change the environment, we don't change the terrain inside the body, then what's to say the cancer's not going to come back, even if you get no evidence of disease diagnosis?
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, when they say you're a cancer survivor, a lot of people think, oh, they beat cancer and their treatment was successful. The reality is, cancer survivor, the definition, when a doctor says that, just means that you have lived past 5 years of being diagnosed with cancer. It
Yeah.
doesn't
That's a big
matter.
mark.
Yeah, it's a big mark, right? And the reality is that from what I believe is that that bar is way too low. That bar is way too low. And the reason being is because the treatments use that mark as a way to say, hey, this is successful. We helped you live past 5 years. Yeah, but what happened to quality of life? What happened to the immune system? What happened to, now they have autoimmune disease and chronic joint pain, all these other things, because now they're on 6 medications and their quality of life. I mean, I've met many people say, look, I would rather die than do chemotherapy again. It destroyed my life. It
Yeah.
literally made me a walking nightmare, so much pain, zombie. It's like I would never, ever, ever, ever do that again. I'm not here to tell anybody to do anything or not do anything. I'm just saying we have to look beyond just, oh, did they survive past 5 years? Like, did we improve their quality of life? Did they, like, we have cancer patients we work with that go through our coaching program that have completely reversed stage 4 cancers. We have others that have gone through our coaching program and they stopped the progression of their cancer. Maybe their cancer regressed a little bit, but their quality of life improved significantly. They were sent home to die and said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And they were in chronic pain and never thought they could walk and do the things they do again. Here they are 2 years, 3 years later telling me in an interview, look, you guys saved my life. I got my quality of life back. I'm riding my mountain bike in the mountains as a 65-year-old woman, riding my
Yeah.
mountain bike and, living out here really enjoying life, like crying, like I thought my life was over. Here I am. The cancer's not gone, but it's not growing either, and their quality of life has significantly improved, right? We have other people who you see, like the cancer will go down a little bit, and then it seems like it comes back, and then it goes down more, it seems like it comes back, and then it completely goes away. We have
Yeah.
people I've interviewed, they were told, hey, you have 2 months left to live, and 10 years later, they're living the best life they've ever lived. So there's always hope, there's always possibilities. But I always tell people, look, get more information. Never rush into any treatment situation without as much information as you can possibly get, and sit in quiet meditation and prayer to God before you ever take any life-changing action. Surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, anything that you can't come back from. Sit
Yeah.
quietly in meditation for as long as it takes.
Because they
Hours,
rush
days,
you.
weeks, as long as it takes. Yeah, and they will rush you and they will do it out of fear and they will say, you got to do this now. And the reality is 99.9% of cases I've ever seen or talked to do not need to rush into anything. You could take a few days, a few weeks. You meditate, you can pray, you can get guidance, you can get other second opinions, third opinions, fourth opinions. Talk to a functional medicine doctor. Go to cancerdoctor.com and find a functional medicine doctor there and talk to somebody there. Go to conqueringcancer.com. Sign up for our free series. Watch our documentary series, right? Learn from the experts who are helping people reverse cancer using a holistic or integrative approach. Get as much information as you can, get proper guidance, and then listen to your instincts, listen to your intuition. I know a lot of people who said, look, they said, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. They went in their car. They just broke down crying, and then just said, God, please help me. Tell me what I need to do. And then it was so clear. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I need to go down this other path. I need to do this plant-based diet. I need to do everything I can to heal and do saunas and lifestyle change and all this stuff. And then here they are 20 years later telling me their story of how they completely reversed this cancer, but they listened to that intuition, So
Yeah.
I think an integrative approach nowadays is probably the best approach, but don't rush into it, and absolutely, look into the resources. Go read my book, Becoming Cancer Free. It's on Amazon, or I'll give it to you for free. You can download it for free, becomingcancerfree.com. Read that, connect with our doctors, get more information before you make any life-changing, life-altering decisions.
Yeah, that's what my late partner did. She refused chemo. She refused radiation. She refused surgery for the exact reason of like, hey, I want to try changing the environment in my body. That was the thing that kind of created in the first place. Yeah, man.
Some people don't survive. I mean, that's the reality, right? Just like chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. No oncologist can tell you that that they can cure your cancer. They can't.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee. And in fact, a lot of treatments only extend your life by 3 months. I mean, like, think about it for a second.
It's a shit quality.
You're going to pay $300,000, $400,000 to destroy your health to live an extra 3 months of a terrible life. Like, that's what I'm saying. Ask questions. Like, in my book, I actually have a series of questions for you to ask your oncologist before you take any action, because some cancers are great with chemotherapy. I think testicular cancer is one of the highest ones. I think it's like over 50%. But look, there was a study that was done between Australia and the United States where they basically gathered all the information. They looked at studies and they said, it's a meta-analysis, and they looked at, all right, what's the effectiveness of improving cancer results, increasing 5-year survival rate amongst all major 22 adult malignancies, amongst all major cancers, using chemotherapy as one of the main therapies. And you know what they discovered? They discovered the success rate was between 2.1 to 2.3%.
It's crazy.
It's a study you can easily find. You can put it up on screen. People can see it. They ask me for it all the time. I put it up on screen all the time. You search, chemotherapy success rate, 5-year survival rate, 2.1%, 2.3%, United States, Australia. It'll pop up. You'll see it. And you're not told that. You're not told that. People are not told that, like, the number one treatment that we're using for cancer actually has a 97% failure rate of improving survival rate past 5 years. Like, why? This billion-dollar industry, trillion-dollar industry, whatever it is now, right, that it destroys your quality of life. So you should know the information, and you should ask your oncologist, what's my success rate with this chemotherapy, with this cancer? How many people have you seen reverse it? What's the quality of life going to be like? Like, ask all those questions, because really your health is in your hands, in your control. And the moment you give it to somebody else, I don't care if it's a naturopathic doctor or an oncologist, it doesn't matter. You should always keep your health in your hands, your control, and make decisions from a place of confidence and serenity. And the only way you can get there is educate yourself, and then reflect, pray, meditate, connect to that stillness within so you can feel strong. And if you don't feel good about a decision, don't do it, period. If you don't feel good about it, don't do it. Like that, wait until you feel good about it. Wait until you get enough information to where you're convinced. Never take an action like that out of fear, ever. And they're always going to be pushing to fear immediately. And so it's very hard. That's why we coach people. We have a coaching program so we can coach people out of that fear so you can make rational decisions. Like, I'm not here to tell you to do conventional or do natural or nothing. To me, like, I'm not involved in that at all. We're about, here's education, here's the research, here's solutions, here's what other people are doing. Here's how you can actually get confident in yourself so you can make an informed decision for your own health. And I think that's what we need.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, they rush you because it was like next day this, next day that, next day we're gonna book you this, and you're doing chemo in like 48 hours. It's like, holy shit! Like, need some breathing room, some information to kind of make that decision. And yeah, it's such a, that's why I'm happy I do the work that I do, man. Like, honestly, as you were sharing that, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm doing the right thing here, because like that's the shit that kind of pisses me off. It's kind of that push on that side. My late partner didn't do it. I knew that if ever I get sick, I'm not doing it as well. I'm going to stick on my side of how I've been doing things. Potentially, go to Gerson, and there's some dope centers in like Germany and Japan that we kind of heard of. But yeah, no, man, I appreciate you sharing that, because I've been saying it for a while, but you have a lot more credibility than I do. So I'm happy people are hearing it from someone that's like done research in that field.
Yeah. I mean, it's been my life for almost 12 years now, every single day, often 8 hours a day. So it's like, that's been my life. And and I see so many miracles happen, and we see people's lives get saved. And now I have a network of, I run an organization called Holistic Leadership Council. These are the top minds in functional medicine around the world who we meet multiple times throughout the year and in person. And we share what's working in functional medicine, and what's the latest solutions, and what's the latest health research and all that stuff. So it's just, I've surrounded myself with really the brightest people in the field, and they teach me every single day. I learn from them. I read the research. I learn from the patients. I hear from them. So, that's really it. It's just like, yeah, most people don't have that time or desire to go and spend thousands of hours learning this stuff. And that's kind of what I've done over the years, is like, all right, let me try to distill this into easy to follow, simple understandings of things, so that you can, like, my book was like, I took like thousands of hours of information and like put it into like a very small book with step by like 7 steps. Like, here's a foundation. Here's what I would do first. Right.
Yeah.
And that's also true for prevention. Like, dude, the study just came out, 79% increase in cancer in people under 50. We're talking 20 and 30-year-olds now are getting cancer at rates upwards of 79% higher in the last 20 years than before. Like, cancer is skyrocketing. Like, people our age don't think about cancer. Oh, it's maybe around 50, 60, 70, or I'll never get cancer, whatever. No, people are being diagnosed more and more and more. And it's not just because diagnosis has gotten better. It's because literally cancer is skyrocketing. Diabetes is skyrocketing. Heart disease is skyrocketing, because these are preventable metabolic lifestyle related diseases. Every single one of them. Majority of them can be prevented. And so we have to think about that now, like, not out of fear, just out of, look, it's happening to so many people because of the toxic food supply, because of the processed food, because of the stress, because of the sedentarism,
convenience.
Right? We can combat all that. Right? Plant-based diet, organic, whole food, make sure that we're supplementing when needed, exercising, low stress, finding purpose in our lives, having a spiritual connection to God. Like, all these things are at the foundation of every cancer conqueror that I've met. They implement these things, and many of them who had a stage 2 a second recurrent, or a recurrence, for example, at stage 4. One of the things they all have in common is they actually started meditating an hour every morning, an hour every night. And that was a big change that they made. Yeah, the diet, the nutrition, the juicing, all the other things. They said, look, I just knew I just had too much stress. And so I committed myself to this, and boom, a couple of years, that stage 4 cancer was gone. And I know a huge part of that, every single person I've talked to, meditation and having a deep spiritual practice has been a super important part of their life.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how much stress can affect your health. Because, like, man, I eat whole food, plant-based, I sleep well, I exercise, I do everything right, but I was super stressed in how I was running the business last year. And I got like a autoimmune thing. I got sick at one point, and I was like, how am I sick? Like, I'm Mr. Fit Vegan. Like, I eat whole food, plant-based, I work out, but the stress was so high So I was like, man, I need to cut back. That's why I go on vacation all the time now. That changed everything. We're just going on vacation every 2 months. It solved it for me. So go on more
Yeah.
vacations, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole documentary series called "The Conquering Cancer: The Missing Link," and it's really the missing link is that it's the nervous system. It's
Yeah.
regulating your nervous system. We are overstressed as a society, and by having a meditation practice, spiritual practice, yoga practice, pranayama practice, qigong practice, all these are wonderful. Anything that helps to calm down our nervous system, activate our parasympathetic, which upregulates our immune system. Dr. Thomas Lodi said it best in my documentary. He said, there is a cure for cancer. It's called the immune system. If you have a fully functioning immune system, you never have to worry about cancer. And what happens when we're in a sympathetic state, stressed out, angry, worrying, fearful, all these things, our immune system gets downregulated automatically because the sympathetic nervous, kicks on adrenal and cortisol, and it says, hey, we're kind of in this fight or flight mode. We got to be ready. We got to be ready for whatever's going to come. And so what that does is it turns down the immune system. And now, cancer and pathogens and bacteria, like every single cancer patient that has been tested for, bacteria and parasites, for example, at Dr. Keneally's clinic in California, which they've tested thousands. Every single one of them is positive for parasites. Every single one of them. Right. And so like parasites take over and they cause chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is one of the underlying core causes of cancer. One of the simple things I teach people is this, and they can go get my book. Like I said, this is all in there, is look at what causes chronic inflammation. Just look at that alone. All the things, the stress, the heavy metals, the toxins, the certain foods, like what causes chronic inflammation, not just a little inflammation, like what actually is causing inflammation and chronic inflammation. And it's parasites, it's, fungal infections, it's bacterial infections, that's, heavy animal products, all these kinds of things are associated with inflammation, and reduce and mitigate and eliminate that as much as possible. And that alone is going to give you a strong foundation for cancer prevention and cancer healing, and then get the body into a parasympathetic state first thing in the morning, ideally at some point during the day, and definitely last thing at night before bedtime through meditation, through breathing practice, through these different practices, because then your immune system gets upregulated. And so when the cortisol is down, the adrenaline's down, the norepinephrine is down, then, dopamine, serotonin, these other chemicals that actually upregulate our immune system. This is why ice bath is so good, right? You get an ice bath, what happens? Boom, you get norepinephrine. Oh, but you said norepinephrine is bad. No, it's not bad. It's bad to be releasing that all day long as you're stressed out. A little bit, because what is norepinephrine? It's a precursor to dopamine. So boom, ice bath, calm yourself. Boom, norepinephrine, right? Shortly after, now norepinephrine goes down, and guess what? Now dopamine starts to come up, and now you get this nice release of dopamine throughout the day. But what's happening is people are like, oh, stressed out, work deadline, I hate this person, he cut me off, that son of a bitch, whatever. And so it's like cortisol, norepinephrine, that dopamine, which dopamine is the precursor to the immune system. Dopamine goes back down, and then adrenal system kicks back on. And guess what? Fight or flight, freeze, fight or flight, freeze, fight or flight, freeze. Yes, autoimmune disease, cancer, chronic inflammatory disease, heart disease, you name it. And all of that can be managed, regulated, prevented, and in many cases even healed by implementing a parasympathetic mastery program into your life, which is what I teach in the book and in a lot of the work that we do.
So for the people listening, I'll put the link down below to the book, because it's all useful information for people. And I honestly, I'm going to read it too, because it's always things that I'm trying to improve. The stress component, especially of it is running a business, creating content, having a family, trying to build your life, trying to serve the world. You feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulder when you're trying to serve. So, I had this thing at one point where it's like, I don't want to give myself cancer out of trying to help people not have cancer. And so just trying to find that balance of how do I serve, but also take care of myself. And that's a really thin line. And I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. It's a thin line of I'm over serving and I'm not taking care of myself at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, it's the old metaphor, the old adage we've heard a million times, I'm sure, is, on the airplane, when the masks come down, they say, put your oxygen mask on first before you help your loved one. Obviously, we have to take care of ourselves first. And that's why I'll tell you, man, this new rule that I have, I've always had, I mean, for years and years, I've had a morning practice, do some meditation, some qigong, some breathing, some energy work, a gratitude practice, some reading. But this, but if I'm busy, like sometimes that shortens, you know what I mean? Like it gets,
Yeah.
sometimes it's 7 minutes, sometimes it's 35 minutes, right? It just depends. But like, since this new rule I set for myself, I do my meditation and spiritual practice before I have anything to drink or eat. And the reason I did drink or eat is because like I can go hours without eating anything, right? So I could have some,
Yeah.
I could have some coffee, I could have some juice, I could have some water. So I could cheat this. I could cheat my own rule if I wanted to. Which those are things, the mind. It's like the
Yeah.
mind attaching to the comforts of life will try to, look for ways around things. And so I was like, no, not even water, no drinking, nothing. And so now it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. I do it first thing when I wake up. First thing now, I just go, it's like I do the meditation, I do, right? And so it's like first thing I do before I do anything else is I take care of myself. And
Yeah.
that's how I start my day. And I'll tell you what, it is a game changer. Game changer. It sets your day in the right path, and it really helps you set your nervous system, get your heart in the right place, your mind in the right place. It's relaxing, nourishing. So I recommend people, consider that deeply. Start your day that way. Make yourself your number one priority. Like the financial books we were talking about, make it a priority, right? It's like if you're going to prioritize saving and investing and donating, like it doesn't matter. It's 1% of every dollar that comes in goes into those accounts. It doesn't matter if it's $1 or $100 or $1,000. Every month, you prioritize, and guess what? Starts to grow.
It adds up.
You prioritize your health, your mental well-being first thing, right? You're going to notice a big difference. And you're like, oh, I don't get stressed out as much. Oh, that person that cut me off. It's like, oh, it didn't bother me at all. Like, you just start to notice these things. Oh, you get these more intuitive downloads and faculties that you have this higher awareness about things. You find a little more joy in your life. Like I just find myself doing more and more things where normally it's like, I don't want to do that. I'm tired. It's like, no, I want to do that. I want to go, let me go play basketball with my daughter or something, just because I know it's going to bring goodness to both of us versus like, I'm tired. Let me just kind of lay here for a little bit. It's like, nope, let me go do this because it's the right thing to do. And I know it's going to be wonderful for both of us. Like those things start to happen more naturally when we have that kind of commitment and practice to ourselves.
Yeah. It made me think of a story with my grandpa. I was driving the other day and this lady, the lights were broken and the lady behind her honked and right away she got upset. You can tell she was looking
Yeah.
for a reason to kind of release. And my grandpa always used to look at those people and be like, man, who shit in your cereal this morning? Like, why are you so upset about life?
Right.
But yeah, like people are just looking sometimes for that reason to kind of like have that release. But when you meditate and you sleep well, you're just like, oh, interesting that they're like, or someone does something to you and they cut you off. You're like, whatever, they'll just drive away. I'll never see them ever again. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyways, man.
Yeah, I just send them blessings. Like I used to it used to bother me years ago, but now I'm just like, man, I just wish them safety and health and happiness. Like it's not going to bother me. Like I just don't attract that to myself anymore. It's so funny because like my dad, every city we move to, because he'll usually come with us and end up living near us, which is awesome. Yeah. Like he moved to Santa Fe to be near us. Now he moved to Jacksonville to be near us. And it doesn't matter wherever we go, small city, big city. These are the worst drivers ever. They always cut you off, and they're so terrible. They don't know what they're doing. That always, I'm like, I don't see bad drivers ever. Like I have no idea what you're talking about, and seriously, like I just don't see them. And it's so funny because that's not where my attention is.
Yeah,
my attention is not on the drivers and what they're doing and how they're cutting me off. And I think energetically, like I'm not attracting very many of them because I'm just focused on like getting to where I need to go, being safe, like driving smart, and I just, once in a while I'll have a driver cut me off or something or whatever, but it's like super rare actually. Like when he was telling me, I was like, I can't remember like I hear from every 2 or 3 days about all these terrible drivers. And I'm like, I can't remember seeing a bad driver in like the last 2 years. Like, what am I missing? Dude, and I realized like, I'm just not attracting it to myself. It's just not where my attention is. And I think that's in our power. I think that's in our control, to a certain degree. by our
Yeah.
energy, our thinking, what we're focusing on.
Yeah, I'm not there yet, man, because you said Florida. You said Florida. I went to Florida and I was driving on the highway and I was like, what the heck is this? Like people just swerving, no lights, nothing. And I had to be like, it's like driving in Mexico, right? There, people just move however you want. So you have to pay attention. So yeah, I'm not at that level of enlightenment yet. I definitely got to Florida. I was like, how the heck do those people drive? They're driving like they're driving go-karts. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I honestly don't see a lot of it, but when in Oaxaca, we were driving through Oaxaca, and like my wife's like, "Oh my god, I don't know how you're doing this." Like we'd be on, there'd be like 6 lanes of cars, right? And I'm
Yeah.
driving, and all of a sudden, like, and there's no lines on the street, and everyone's
Yeah.
just kind of going in and out, and all of a sudden you turn a corner, and it goes from 6 lanes wide to like 2 lanes wide, and you're just like, okay, all right. Like I'm just like super focused at that moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
of like just being safe, and yeah, that was, I mean, that was actually, it felt totally normal to me, and my wife was just like in the passenger seat, like, how are you doing this right now? Oh my god, this is crazy. She's from Mexico, so I'm like, what
Yeah,
the
that's what I
heck,
was gonna say. Shit.
Yeah,
So,
it's funny
Matt,
though.
brother, we've been going for almost 2 hours now. I think you have the record. I think for the longest podcast I've ever recorded. Honestly, I feel like we could talk probably
All right,
for
I'll take it.
another few hours. But I have to go because I have to lead a training for Center for Nutrition Studies. I lead trainings for them like every few months and be showing
Nice.
people how to like squat and exercise at home and kind of be safe. So,
Nice.
man, I want to say massive thank you for your time, for your knowledge, for your authenticity. I always like to let people kind of share last words of wisdom that they'd like to share with the audience. And just for the people listening to know that everything we talked about, all the links and everything will be in the description. I'll make sure you don't miss out on anything valuable that we shared today.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, brother, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on the podcast, man. Thanks for doing what you do. I mean, you're changing lives every single day and bringing good information and solutions to people. So, keep up the incredible work that you're doing as well. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I mean, I think we covered more than enough in the last couple hours. Plenty of information for folks. I mean, if you want, um, if people want to dive in more, obviously you can check out my YouTube channel, Instagram, stuff like that. Always posting, good stuff there. Check out plantpoweredathlete.com. We've got blog posts that we're putting up with really good, research-based education there on plant-based nutrition, especially considering yourself as an athlete and how to really improve performance and really, experience that higher level of your own peak performance at any age. So that's a Plant Powered Athlete. Love to see you guys over there. And yeah, I mean, stay active, eat real food, meditate. Dude, you're going to have a good life, period.
Well, beautiful words to end on, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Again, go check out those links down below. Go show Nathan some love, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks.